Well, that was eventful. I go to start up Gundam Evolution and then it tells me that it's under maintenance. And the best part is if it's under maintenance, there's actually no button for you to close the game. So I'm very glad that I wasn't sure what game I'd be playing Friday or what I would be doing Friday, because then I could just slot this in instead. So, fuck Gundam, we're playing Res. And, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, all of the stuff for option A for Friday arrived. So instead of playing Res on Friday, and instead of playing Gundam on Friday, I'll be doing a stream where I put together a modded Game Boy Advance. And that'll be, dare I say it, fun. So, what I want to do is, I want to do direct assault, so all the stages one after the other. I think that is a very interesting and fun way to play this game and others, like Tetris Effect as well. I like to do the whole thing where they just throw each stage at you one after the other in journey mode. I enjoy that a lot. So we can do that with direct assault in Res, technically infinite, and then technically HD, but I'm just calling it Res. So let's do it. Yeah, I've not finished it on normal. So I don't actually know what any of these mean yet. But if I finish it here, I can find out. So let's do it. I've also never played Res with a controller before, because I just did it with mouse and keyboard when I did play for the first couple times. Because for some reason it wouldn't take my analog stick inputs. But now that I'm using Steam input, I think that specifically has fixed the problem. And I didn't know that this... I mean, I knew that Res did stuff with Rumble. I didn't know that it would just, like, work with my controller. So I've got a pulsing controller in my hands. Ah, oh, what'd I do? It's a lot harder to get a high hit rate with a analog stick, surprisingly. Not surprisingly at all, honestly, actually. Because it was a bit easy with a mouse. God, this soundtrack is really good. I actually have a friend who somehow, through some sort of black magic, found the soundtrack CD for this. Just like, I think in just like some like record store bargain bin or something like that. Or like maybe in a thrift shop or something, and I definitely asked them to pretty please rip it for me so I can have it. Honestly, just the first level is probably my favorite track on the entire OST. They start strong, I will say. God, there is also something it's so simple, but just having my controller actually pulsing to the beat of the track is really doing it for me as well. There we go. Other things that this soundtrack makes me think is, you know what, because I thought that I didn't like techno, which is an actual genre and not just a word for electronic music. I thought that I did not like it, but if it sounds like the Res soundtrack, then maybe I do like it. I thought Polybius was trippy. Yeah. I would not be surprised. I know that the gameplay of at least like the sort of Polybius version I'm thinking of, the gameplay is very much Tempest inspired. But I would not be surprised if the aesthetics were Res inspired. I mean, obviously they're inspired by the legend of the Polybius arcade game that doesn't exist, but additional aesthetic information coming from Res would not surprise me. I am pretty certain that this game can look very abstract and give very little direction to the player, specifically because there's like one thing you can do. You can move your cursor and target things, and that's literally it. That's all you get. So the game can kind of go crazy with how it looks and acts because there's only one way for the player to interact with the game, so it's fairly easy to figure out what the game wants of the player. Biggest revelation gaming history. Absolutely. Like, I've watched multiple times. I've watched Retro Hoy's video on Polybius. It is a fantastic video. Oh my god, really? I had no idea at all that had happened. I basically know of Nine Inch Nails' involvement in Quake, and that's really it. Alright, that's area 2 down. Now for the second best track on this whole soundtrack. Do not at me. Do not at me, because you'll be wrong. I will have to look up the music video for Less Than Heavy. It's honestly actually so easy to see. To like play this game now in the modern age, especially with as Res Infinite, and just see like, yeah, I can definitely see how Enhance, who directed Res Infinite, would then go on to make Tetris Effect. And I wonder what Enhance could be up to after that, honestly. I'd be very intrigued to see. Alright, thanks for stopping by even for just a little bit. I'm happy to have you here. Honestly, I wish I could make the music even louder than this now, because this is at max, and I feel like I could go a lot harder. Also, bless Ken Ishii for this track. I think, like many people, I first heard Ken Ishii through his track Extra, which I think won like an award for best music video for like some thing for whichever year it came out. Oh my god, Jesus Christ. And then I learned that he did a track for this game. Additionally, at some point, like at my local thrift shop, I picked up this like 3 or 4 CD compilation of like future jazz, breakbeat, hip hop stuff. Like it's a record label called, I think, Ninja Tunes, from like the 90s and up to now. Founded by I think a duo called Cold Cut. And then Cold Cut did a track for fucking this game too. Learning stuff like that was like wild. Also, fact, the name of this track is Rock is Sponge. Which makes more sense when the vocals come in. It's like, oh, he says rock noises sponge, except that still doesn't fucking make any sense. In fact, actually, it makes even less sense because some rocks can act as sponges. I feel like that might be like the only point in the game where you actually have to like turn more than the amount of the screen that's shown. Ages ago, life was born in the primitive sea. Young life forms constantly evolved in order to survive. Some prospered, others did not. All sorts of life ebbed and flowed, not ebbed and flowed like the tides. Something I was trying to forget linear time streaming. Yeah. Yeah. It's literally just vibing as a video game. Always seek to survive and flourish. Soon life began its advance towards land, opening new habitats. I'm not even gonna bother reading into this anymore, it's too fast. Too much text. I'm illiterate. Horse. That was very close. Because it absolutely would have ran my face into that and taken damage. Oh, I've become baby. And this is actually the track I mentioned earlier that was produced by Cold Cut, who I just serendipitously found at a thrift store months earlier. orb mode. I don't like how much damage I'm taking. One bit. No, I don't think that this track is actually on the soundtrack. Weirdly, because you think it would be since it's the final boss. God, this sequence in particular is extremely Dreamcast, which does make sense. Oh, I just barely survived that. That was a very big focus moment right there. This last hit, one hit away from finishing. And such is the original res. And now that I've beaten that mode of it, I can see what the hell that other stuff I haven't unlocked is. I imagine... Actually, I don't know what I imagined, quite frankly. I started that sentence, but I didn't know how I was gonna end it. Monstars resonate and enhance the Holy Trinity. Unlocked ambient. I got 1 million points. Cool. What the hell is... Oh, it just... I wonder if this is just going through the whole game, but instead of the soundtrack from... Like, instead of the original game soundtrack, you get a soundtrack that's like ambient and punk and whatever the hell old school is. And psychedelic and trance and all that stuff. I wonder if that's it. I don't want to play through the entire game again on stream to find out necessarily, but we can do visual and audio overload state with no danger to the player. I don't know what this is. Let's do that. I've never done this before. Oh yeah. Oh, that's crunch. Some real good noise music there. I am mildly concerned. I am not sure what I am experiencing right now. Presumably this mode does end. Because, like, this track on the soundtrack does have an end. So one would presume. I want to see, like, just how visual audio overload it gets. Oh no. Oh no. I don't like this. I am unsettled. That actually scared me. Like, that made me jump a little bit. Fear. Great amounts of fear. Does this just go on forever? I thought that, like, maybe it would end. Because this is not the vibe I had in mind for stream tonight. I didn't think, alright chat, we're gonna listen to Merzbow. Okay, yeah, this is looping. I have encountered this exact pattern. This is the first thing I did in this level. Yeah, that's enough for me for that one. No more, please, thank you, mother. What is up with this? Okay. I guess I can't do any of that. I guess let's do lost area, and then possibly we could do area X. I hadn't intended to, but we could. And then maybe take a very brief dip of our toes into the other mode, like ambient mode of direct assault, and see exactly what that's all about. Perhaps, maybe. Honestly, I just forgot that Res was only like an hour-long game. I might fucking die. Wouldn't that be unfortunate? Can I please exit ball mode? Thank you. Fuck. Ball mode returns. I'm not happy about it. What? Fuck. Okay. That's fine, I guess. I want to see what this is about right now. I'm far too curious. And I can just immediately leave if I have. This is different. Why is it bright? Why did I turn on light mode? And why is the music the same? This might be something that I will have to Google. If it's just like color schemes, and I'll have to see which one is the best one, obviously. Yeah, this is... Of all the things I could have expected this to be, I don't think this was on the list. Yeah, this is... unexpected, and I don't know if that's in a good way. I mean, it's certainly a different way to experience the game. I wouldn't say it's a different way in such that it adds replay value. The replay value is slightly carried by just trying to get better at the game, really, honestly. And honestly judged by how fun this game is. That sounded weird somehow. I'll go through... Honestly, I probably won't even go through the entirety of this area. In fact, I'm done. I have experienced that in particular, and it's not exciting, particularly. Rate of 95 for boss rush. What is my shot down rate? 98, 99, 98, 98, 89. So I just have to do area 5 a bit cleaner. And that's not happening with an analog stick, I don't think. would I want to do area X is the question. And honestly, I think the answer is yes. I think I will hop into this. Oh, this is immediately different. In terms of like how the reticle controls is what I mean. Obviously, it looks very different. Oh, even the vibration is stronger in Area X. Interesting. It's honestly amazing how much the experience of res changes only by changing the aesthetics of it. Like, just from going like away from the sort of vector heart style of the original and like the heavy techno influence, the heavy techno soundtrack, to like something more ethereal like this, while playing exactly the same, just giving such a vastly different experience. It also is like very well exemplified in Tetris Effect, which makes perfect sense because also directed by Enhance and developed by the same teams that Enhance, I suppose, maybe scouted or contract. I'm not sure exactly how, like, the admin side of getting Tetris Effect into proper existence worked. Also, the implementation of like 100% free aim and moving around in the space essentially freely instead of being a fully railed experience. Also, pretty big change as well. Even like that simple of a change definitely gives, like, specifically the movement towards being able to move freely. Definitely gives this like different feel of, instead of in the original res, much like how it actually was in the context of the game world, it felt like you were sort of pushing forward and being hunted down in turn, because you could only ever progress onward and defend yourself from what was being thrown at you. In this game, it's a lot more like sort of freely flowing through the space and making your own path, which sort of falls in with more of the theme of Enhance's games, of being more about like introspection and connection with between people, at least from their track record of 2. And that is slightly harder to justify with Res Infinite, because they haven't, like, I don't think anyway, they haven't spoken on the themes they tried to explore in Infinite so much as they've spoken very explicitly on Tetris Effect's themes. Additionally, seeing like how, like, as far as I'm aware, Hydelic, the person who created the soundtracks for Area X and in Resident Evil and for Tetris Effect, this, like, Res Infinite is his first credited work, and the only releases I can find as Hydelic are his work with Enhanced Games. So it's like, where did they find this person? Who were they before? Because it's like very clear I mean, one would think it was clear that this wouldn't be Heidelik's first, like, work musically ever, right? So, how did they happen upon them? Where were they before? What was their alias? I want to know. I need to know the lore. And I guess that's Area X. Noboru Muto is the person behind Heidelik. But I don't know if that would get me anything, really. So I guess I'd probably be comfortable calling it there with just pretty short 2-hour stream. I kind of expected to go short if I was to play Gundam as well, but that's not fucking happening. I mean, technically speaking, if we waited 20 more minutes, we could also do Gundam, but I'm not gonna fucking do that. I'm done. So I think that is a good place to call it. I shared something very unique with you all. I am trying to formulate words right now. So don't worry about the awkward silence. I'm just trying to my brain gears are turning. Cause there's this game is very much of its time and of its console. It's like excruciatingly first couple years of the 2000s in its design. I dropped the phrase vector heart earlier, but that's a very Y2K design philosophy that is very much embodied in the visual stylings and the package graphic design of Res. And it's very experimental and off the wall and stylistic in the way that a lot of the most remembered Dreamcast games are. This might be like the single like representative Dreamcast game. Some will say it's Sonic Adventure or something like that. I disagree. It's gotta be something like Rez. Or like maybe something along the lines of like D2. Or it's something odd, because the Dreamcast itself was very odd. And it's something that I very much love about the Dreamcast. And I'm very glad that I got one when I did, before the prices on it just fucking went through the roof. Because I got mine at a thrift shop for like $20. And here we are. Yeah, there's a lot of games that I'm pretty sure like stuck on the Dreamcast as well. A lot of them actually made it out, I will say. Like some of like if you want to play some of like the most like popular and successful, especially Dreamcast games, a lot of them got ported like immediately out to like the GameCube or the Xbox or something, or the PlayStation 2. Basically, like its contemporaries in that next generation of consoles. Like so, there's actually like very little reason. Let me turn on, because this menu's silent. Let me turn on my BGM. Like, because of how all those games made it out of being locked on the Dreamcast after its death, and sometimes even before its death, if you're just looking to play like your Sonic Adventures and your Jet Grind Radios and such, often like there's very little reason to specifically get a Dreamcast. Like there's very little reason to play the Dreamcast versions, I should say, because with the state of emulation as it is now, there's very little to no reason to get any retro consoles, except for the novelty of playing on original hardware. But simultaneously, the further forward you go in time, the less likely a game is to be compatible with an emulator. Like Xbox 360 emulation is, I won't say that what they have done is not impressive, but majority of games don't work still. And don't even get me started on Saturn emulation. Somehow that thing is still just tearing apart attempts to emulate Saturn games. It was just that weird of a console in terms of its architecture. But the Dreamcast is pretty easy to emulate, as far as I'm aware. So there's very little reason to own it, and then beyond that, if you want to play on original hardware, there's very little reason to get a Dreamcast over some other console that also has those games. Or I guess, more accurately, if you want to play your games legitimately, there's little reason to go for the Dreamcast over all the ports that have been made since the Dreamcast of all its most popular games. But then there are games like D2 and other ones like Virtual On, Oratorio Tangram, I think the second Dreamcast game I ever got, like Virtual On, your Virtual Ons, your D2s, other games that I don't know very well that are still stuck there. And those games are worth playing. And that's definitely something that I really enjoy about A, game preservation, and B, just blindly exploring a library for a console you have gotten. You just find stuff that is like lost to time almost, except that oftentimes these are not lost to time, they are very well archived. Otherwise, how would you hear about them in the modern age? But you find things that are vaguely lost to time, and you never would have guessed, like, even considered. And it's, like, actually worth bothering with. Excuse me, I'm a little sniffy. Like, if I got my Dreamcast and, like, only went for, like, oh, I want to get Sonic Adventure, oh, I want to get Shenmue, oh, I want to get whatever other popular games are on the Dreamcast, because my brain isn't working, then I would not have picked up Virtual On, because I was just randomly browsing, like, Dreamcast games on eBay, and I found that, and it's like a very nice, well put together, what kind of game would you call that? Like a Dreamcast. It's like this one very specific kind of one-on-one fighting game. I think Custom Robo plays like it. It's like a very specific genre. Like, I think Custom Robo plays like it. I think Zone of the Enders plays like it. It's like specifically a mech fighting game. I would have never thought of that. I would have never played that or picked it up if I was just like looking for specific games. Especially like to if I was also going like on emulation, that's also kind of the route that I take when I'm gathering games to play on emulation, or at some point probably on flashcard as well. So I look for specific games or for specifically well-regarded games instead of just like, I want to explore this library for this piece of hardware I have. So at some point, I am gonna have to... The world will force me into Dreamcast emulation at some point, because the optical disc assembly is only going to last so long. And then once that's gone, what else do I do except for an ODE, an optical disc emulator? Which is basically the disc-based console equivalent of a flash card. And then, like, I will have to resort to the same sort of ROM hunting practices as before, or as I do with, like, getting games on emulation. And then there's also, like, the whole thing of, like, I used to, like, I would ROM hunt for games to play on my hacked Wii, for GameCube games to play on my hacked Wii. But Now I have a computer that can run Dolphin. And I can play GameCube games at 1440p on my main monitor with, like, sound coming out my headphones instead of my speakers on whatever controller I want. Although, usually I would want to play the GameCube controller anyway. Like, I own these consoles, but I have incentive to not use them. And that's sort of like, I think that is my main, or like, driving force for my attitude about, like, modifying my consoles. Because, like, I did a mod for my NES controllers, or NES, one of them, because I am one person and I don't fucking know people who would want to play multiplayer NES games with me, and I don't even own any anyway. But I did a mod for my NES controller to make it wireless, because it would make it more convenient to play my NES over playing an NES emulator on my computer. And that worked. Except that I own 2 NES games, and they're way too expensive now. So if I want to play, and also it's still on a composite signal, it still looks like Garbo. So if I want to play anything besides Metroid and weirdly Wizardry, I have to go to emulation. And if I do play those games, I'm playing them on a composite video signal going into a cheap HD TV, which is going to have this really crunchy video signal that then gets scaled wrong and deinterlaced incorrectly. Because I don't have anything like an open source scan converter to get that signal to play nicely with my TV. And that's also like why I want to push for like having all my consoles have HDMI mods as well. Additionally, because it future-proofs it, because at some point, mark my words, they will stop making TVs that have analog inputs. Like, I'm sure the only reason that they still... they already do. Well, I mean, of course they make TVs that don't have them, but at some point there will be no TVs that have analog input. Some still exist, and they're mostly targeted to, like, DVD players, because DVD still outsells Blu-ray in terms of home video, but home video is dead. It's all streaming now. I would dread to see how how DVD sales have fared over the past couple of years, even the past 10 years. So to HDMI mod my consoles would be to essentially future-proof them so I can always have access to them until HDMI as a standard dies, which I feel like it won't until, like, wires die. Which companies are trying, but I don't think wires will ever fully die. As long as you still have to plumb things into the wall to get mains power, there's always going to be at least one cable, which means that it's always going to be not much of a hassle to have two. Especially because, like, video signals, like, audio already has a hard time going through the fucking Bluetooth funnel, or Bluetooth bottleneck. And video just gets it worse to go through wireless signals like that. So there's always going to be wires, I think. And as long as there's going to be wires, the HDMI is sort of keeping up. It's keeping the same plug and then getting more features with revisions of the standard. So I think HDMI is sort of an indefinite for video signals and for video audio combined signals. You see, I'm trying to, like, push the limits of my consoles is my way of making them serve a purpose in my life still. And that very neatly ties in to what I will be streaming Friday, where I'll be taking a Game Boy Advance and giving it basically as much modern convenience as could possibly exist for it at the moment. I'll go over the full parts list probably when I do it, rather than now. But, like, I'm going more or less all the way. The only thing is I'm not touching any of the audio stuff. That's the audio stuff, and obviously the motherboard itself are basically the only things that will stay as they were. Because playing a Game Boy Advance can be rather rough in the modern era, which is unfortunate. Because I very much value some semblance of an authentic experience playing a video game. Like, yeah, fucking NES controllers aren't wireless by default, so my NES experience isn't authentic, and I wasn't playing it in the CRT, so it never even was to begin with. It never was fully authentic in that sense. But there is a charm to playing a game on the hardware it was designed for. And I like to capture that charm when I play. Like, I just randomly bought Wizardry one day. I just thought that'd be a cool thing to have. I could easily have emulated it at the time, and now. And even before I got it. Like years before I got it. But I think that my experience fundamentally was shaped by playing. I've not finished it. I should at some point, but it's a fucking hard game to finish. I feel like I might just have to start over if I wanted to, given the state that my current save game is in. But that's a story for another time. I think my experience with that game is fundamentally different because I played it on original hardware. I don't know how. I feel like I might not be able to ever qualify that statement. But there is something different about it. There's some amount of charm to it. And hey, Gundam Evolution's maintenance is over. So I ended up just talking about bullshit for 20 minutes. Cool. Anyway, that's it. I've said my piece. I've rambled for long enough. I'm going to spend the remainder of my night relaxing, doing fucking something. I don't know yet. But I hope you enjoyed the experience of Rez and whatever the hell I was talking about for the past half hour. I don't even remember half of it or more. So you have a good night. I'll be back on Friday with modding my GBA. It's gonna be very much an experience doing a handcam stream. So we'll see how that goes. But we'll see how that goes then.